The Legend of Zelda is one of the greatest game franchises of all time. This series is beyond phenomenal and has meant so much to me since 2012 when I picked up Twilight from GameStop after school. Ever since then, I've been a diehard fan and I never missed a new mainline game. Even Triforce Heroes, where I had to play it alone since none of my friends who had 3DSs picked it up. Probably a good decision. Getting to Zelda was especially great at the time because I had a chance to be a part of the wait for Breath of the Wild. When that first trailer dropped in E3 2015 and Eiji Aonuma said we can go to the mountains in the distance, I was stunned. I didn't really play any open world games like that, so it just added to my anticipation. From 2013 to 2017, I was patiently waiting, and when it came out, it was really a one-of-a-kind experience. I was absolutely sucked into the world and just roaming and exploring. The feeling of climbing a mountain and finding those little spots to recharge your stamina, the quiet moments roaming the field on a horse, and the few times actual music played, and it had this unique ambiance that we never heard in Zelda before. It was an incredible experience. Looking at Breath of the Wild now, it does have its flaws, but for me it was and still is a one-of-a-kind game, and I will always cherish both the anticipation and the journey that was Breath of the Wild. I said all this to make sure you understand my deep care and appreciation for this franchise. So when I say that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is not only a disappointing game, but honestly isn't even worth picking up, I want you all to understand the severity of that statement. I'm not the only one who feels this way. A YouTuber by the name of Skitty Bitty made a great video detailing everything wrong with this game. And honestly, they hate this game in a way that I can't, but I do appreciate and completely understand. Tears of the Kingdom, in my opinion, is not a bad game, and there are great aspects to it like Ultra Hand and Ascend. They make for really interesting ways to traverse through the world. I also really enjoyed the freedom in how to approach puzzles and shrines. It gave me so many moments where I had an idea of how to approach a problem, but it also let me solve it in my own way. That was an experience that I don't think I've had in any other game. Granted, it did open the doors for people to break shrines altogether, so that was sort of a problem. However, despite the positives, the negatives of this game are everywhere. I'm not going to go over all of them because that's going to take a much longer video, but this game has so many unignorable issues. But the one flaw in Tears of the Kingdom that pisses me off the most when I think about it, and it honestly feels so disrespectful as a longtime fan of Zelda, is the story. The story to Tears of the Kingdom is absolute fucking dog shit. There is no excuse for this story to be as bad as it is. There is almost no redeeming elements outside for a few small moments and at the end of the game, which we will talk about later. This is easily the worst story in the Zelda franchise, and the fact that Nintendo thought this was acceptable is concerning at best and downright cynical and passive aggressive on their part at worst. I don't even know where to begin, so let's just start at the beginning. That sounds so stupid. What the fuck? The game begins with an actually very interesting segment with Zelda and Link. They're exploring the bottom of Hyrule Castle. Already we have a strong start. The atmosphere and build up with the music especially leaves such a strong impression. We keep exploring and Zelda and Link encounter these murals painted on the wall. Now this is where shit goes downhill within minutes. Zelda begins to read what's on the murals, and this is where the game creates three huge issues in its story that we will be discussing in detail. Zelda keeps deciphering the murals and realizes what this is: the imprisoning war. I jumped out of my seat when I heard this. If you're a longtime Zelda fan, this should sound very familiar. The imprisoning war was originally in A Link to the Past on the SNES. It was a human war for the Triforce that set the backdrop for that game. Now, the imprisoning war that's on the murals is not depicting the same events that the one in Link to the Past is. However, it didn't matter because what they were describing in it was interesting, and it even did seem like it fit into the lore to an extent. This introduces a new race, the Zonai, and how they were the original founders of Hyrule, or at the very least, a few of the members ruled over the first kingdom of Hyrule. Now again, in the Zelda lore, the Zonais were not the founders of Hyrule, nor did the events depicted perfectly line up. However, we could just assume it's a new kingdom and they were the founders for a revival of Hyrule. Alright, okay. A little mental gymnastics needed, but it's a Zelda game. There's a reason we have a whole goddamn timeline built. This shit's always been confusing, but fuck it. We still get engaged and we still care about this shit. And hey, we have some voice acting this time. It's already an interesting spin on concepts that we already seen in the series, and they fuck it all up. So they keep exploring and they see Ganondorf, who looks badass and has a cool voice, and Zelda gets sent away. I don't know if this was the best decision to again not have Zelda with us throughout the game, but it is what it is. Let's see what they do with it. Link also loses the Master Sword and his hand, which is for gameplay shit, but it was a pretty cool scene, I'm not gonna lie. So after all that, we get thrown onto the Sky Islands, and I know this is a video focused on the story, but I gotta say that this island was amazing to explore. It's one of the best looking parts of Hyrule, and it gave me a similar feeling to the Great Plateau, but it also felt different and unique in its own way, and it just added this new feel that honestly felt just as iconic as the Great Plateau to an extent, so I did really like it. We get our gameplay device, Hand, from the spirit of the first King Rauru, and he's a cool guy, you know, there's not much to say about him at the moment. We send the Broken Master Sword to wherever the fuck Zelda is, and then we descend into the actual map. We meet up with that one girl from Breath of the Wild, I don't know what the fuck her name is, and she gives us the gameplay pad. So far, the story it's alright, it's solid. There's definitely some concerns, but with everything set up, it could make for a great Zelda story. But after this, is where it all falls apart. We get our quest to go to the 4 regions and investigate the weird shit going on. Whichever one you choose first doesn't matter. You can go help out the crack addict Gorons, fuck around with the Zoras, the same shit as Breath of the Wild, which is one of the game's biggest issues. It follows the exact same formula as Breath of the Wild. That in of itself wouldn't be a problem, but the game for some reason believes that since it's a sequel using the same assets and map, we have to do everything within the same game structure as Breath of the Wild, which is so fucking stupid, especially coming from a franchise with goddamn Majora's Mask. This video isn't about the game again, but for some games, and Nintendo, listen close because this is basically the entire issue with this game's story, is that gameplay and story in some games are intertwined. Sometimes the story helps you be immersed in the game and the gameplay whenever the fuck you're doing, especially in open world games and especially when you're reusing the same goddamn map. So already I'm a bit concerned about going into these areas because it feels like we're gonna retread how Breath of the Wild did its story, and that was again one of the biggest issues with that game. So fuck it, you know, so far so good, let's have hope. Let's see what's up with the Doritos. The game basically guides us there. They're dealing with extreme cold, and apparently Zelda's doing weird shit and, oh okay, we're not doing this nonsense. It's fucking Ganon. Even if this is your first Zelda game, it's very obviously not her. And even if you're 7 years old playing this game, it literally shows us she's fine. And if you want to stretch it and say something happened between the cutscene with the Master Sword and her going to these areas, her literal silhouette is the same red color as Ganon. It's not her. How fucking stupid does Nintendo think we are? So by this point, I sort of realized that we were in for more of the same. Arguably worse in some ways because the main mystery is so obvious, uncompelling, and so blatant with the fact that the game doesn't even care and just wants some excuse for us to do the Zelda shit. I don't want to be cynical, but what else could I be at this point? Sure, we have the new Lost Memories and we do have 3 other locations, so maybe the story could get better, but between the non-existent mystery that's the driving force for the story and the retreading of the same format that didn't work the first time around, it's not looking too good. We finish the Dorito dungeon and we get a cutscene with the Guardian from the past. It's whatever. The dialogue is of course pretty generic and completely plot driven instead of character driven, but you know, it seems like it's the theme. Maybe it can improve or not, it's the first dungeon. But what you start to notice once you go to any of your second dungeons, whichever one you choose, is again the repeat structure. It's sort of all copy and paste. Sure, the situations are different, but even the dialogue seems exactly the same. I mean, sure, it is sort of changing slightly depending on who you were talking to and what the situation is, but it's still the same structure and still the same exact thing. You don't really get any originality with the dialogue, and nothing outside of Zelda is mysteriously evil shit is even focused on. I guess you could say the new Guardians sort of have their own situation going on, but even that is so shallow and surface level. You can give those same pieces of dialogue to an unnamed NPC and it would feel exactly the same. For some reason in this game, Nintendo can't write a story specific character to save their lives. The worst example of this and the most egregious laziness I've ever seen from this company, and that's saying a lot, is what happens when you finish your second dungeon. The cutscene with the champion of the past speaking will start playing and you'll have this thought in the back of your head, this is kind of familiar. You brush it off for a second and say, well, we're talking to a new champion of the past. Same structure, but we'll get some new information or something specific to this dungeon, this region, or these characters. But as it goes on, you realize that isn't the case. And what you do realize pretty much kills all hope of this game having an even semi-decent story. And for the first time in my life, I genuinely started to feel hate for a Zelda game, even for a moment. Cause you see, whenever you beat a dungeon in Tears of the Kingdom, you get the exact same cutscene 4 times. 4 fucking times. There was no dialogue change, no uniqueness outside of maybe one line and here and there, and a 5-minute cutscene. It is completely copy and paste. I can't even explain how fucking terrible this is. Such a fucking lazy, garbage way of telling this pathetic excuse for a story. I understand it's hard making an open world story, but there is no excuse for this. By this point, I was completely checked out. I didn't even bother watching like the last dungeon cutscene, and I missed nothing. I wish I could say more, but what is there to say? It's identical. Honestly, it just speaks for itself, man. I said that the structure for the main missions is just as bad and copy and pasted earlier, but I didn't discuss the biggest issue with that yet. So if you do the Tears of the Dragon Lost Memory first, you will find out what happened to Zelda, and you also find out that the Zelda we've been tracking down is Ganon. Who the fuck would have thought? But what makes this obvious plot twist worse is that you can't tell anyone. This entire story is based on what Zelda is doing in these regions, and even if you know, it changes nothing. Link might be a silent protagonist to us, but in game, he in some moments is able to speak and tell people information. He tells Impa in Kakariko Village, but that's it. The entire structure of these main missions, which is 75% of the main story and the main shit you will be doing, gets completely destroyed when you decide to do something that the game allows you to do in any order. And what's even crazier about it is that they didn't even need to change much. Just because we know it isn't Zelda doesn't mean we still don't have to fix these issues Ganondorf causes. We just don't have that overarching motivator, which the game barely could pretend they were interested in. We could have had one piece of dialogue from whoever we were talking to and keep it mostly the same. Hell, we probably wouldn't even need to change the repeating cutscene after the dungeon. It could have been done, and these motherfuckers had 6 years of development time to figure it out, but they couldn't be bothered to take 1 or 2 days to put in slightly different dialogue for if you do one of the main things that the game motivates you to do. It's so lazy, and it breaks the little bit of immersion you could feel in this god-awful main story. Good lord. While I was writing this script, I decided to start playing Skyrim. Now, Skyrim is a very flawed game, but the one aspect of Skyrim that sucks me into the world despite all of that is its characters. I had this moment early on. I was talking to this random street vendor, and we were just talking about his life, his views on the world, and politics, a bit about his race. It might have not been a lot to somebody who's a huge fan of games like this, but for me, that little bit of conversation from a random NPC showed me the difference between this and Tears of the Kingdom. When you talk to an NPC in Tears of the Kingdom, you will not have this type of encounter. It will be either a shallow statement, them talking about a problem to give you a quest, or just being there to fill out space and pretend this is a lived-in world. With Skyrim, everyone you talk to feels like an actual person, but in Tears of the Kingdom, they feel like NPCs. Notice how nobody really talks about the post-calamity era of Hyrule and how they feel about it. There's no disagreements on how to move forward after 100 years of war and destruction. Nobody has any deep feelings or thoughts about the world around them. It's so shallow. I'm not saying I need Link to have the option to join the Thieves Guild, but it would have done this game so much good to have a world where the people in it are, well, people. It doesn't help that all signs of Guardians and any Breath of the Wild stuff is completely wiped away, because yeah, it makes perfect sense that there would be no remnants of a main enemy force of a 100-year war just a few years after they were defeated. Shrines are one thing, I guess, you could maybe blame them on the upheaval, but there's literally nothing. It's like Breath of the Wild didn't happen or wasn't as extreme as it was. I get Nintendo wanting to bring in a new audience and, they don't want to alienate people that didn't play Breath of the Wild, but this is a direct sequel. How many examples are there of direct sequels sometimes selling even better than the original? Hell, Nintendo had numerous direct sequels sell better than the original. It's such a weird logic for a company that should know better at this point. Okay, so the main story is garbage. Characters are lackluster at best and plot devices at worst, but what about the lost memories? Those are the most consistent and focused story stuff we got in Breath of the Wild, so how are those? Well, they're worse. When I first played Tears of the Kingdom, I thought it was an improvement because at least it was important to the main story. In Breath of the Wild, the lost memories were more about these small moments developing Zelda, the King, and the Guardians. People hated that, and I admit, I sort of felt that way at first. But reflecting on it now, that was its strength. I like that these lost memories were more about developing and showing these characters off as people. We get a lot more out of Zelda, for example, and her struggles and passions than we would if the cutscenes were focused on the main story in the present. I get the criticism, and I agree with it to an extent, but I prefer that to what we get with the Tears of the Dragon. So we have 13 memories just like Breath of the Wild, and we can collect them in any order. I used the guide to get them in order. I didn't really care that much about trying to find them naturally. Unlike Breath of the Wild, these memories actually matter to the story, so collecting them in the wrong order can actually fuck up your experience with the story. What Nintendo could have done was have the memories play in order, so no matter which one you collected, the memories would have been in order. This would have prevented players from seeing stuff that they're not supposed to see yet. Again, this was just a lazy way of handling something so important. But let's actually discuss what's in these memories. The memories center on Zelda, who after falling into the hole in Hyrule Castle, goes back in time and meets the first king of Hyrule, Rauru, and his wife Sona as they deal with Ganondorf. I said this before, but I do like Rauru. He's not the most deep or interesting character, but he does have some cool moments and a cool voice, so I guess that's enough for me. Sonya, she's okay. She's okay. The strength of the lost memories was that it gave development to these characters and showed them at these sort of calm before the storm moments. These memories are completely plot driven, for the worst. Most of these memories revolve around Rauru or Sonya explaining shit to Zelda, and I guess that makes sense considering the situation, but we don't know these people. I don't hate them, but they barely feel like characters and more so plot devices. The first 3 memories are just Zelda having shit be explained to her. Again, I understand the need, but I wish we got actual moments with these people, or at the very least have dialogue that doesn't sound like every other character in this game that has to explain shit. The memories are also how we get most of Ganondorf's dialogue in the game. Now, Ganon has never really been the deepest character. Outside of Wind Waker, he usually just stays the same intimidating and badass villain that he's always been, without really going further into that. This game is really no different, but it would have been cool if they went the Wind Waker route. I mean, we have voice acting and full-length cutscenes, so let's utilize that. What if we focus on how he regained himself after being Calamity Ganon for so long, or even just something as simple as one scene of him being a king to the Gerudo, literally anything. Instead, we have some cool moments and some intimidation, but that's really it. I can't put that solely on this game, but with the production of it and the focus on story, I just wish we got more. Anyway, Ganon kills Sonya and takes her sacred stone, which is one of the plot device things, and the rest of the memories focus on the preparation for the imprisoning war. And here's where we get the reveal that Zelda, by eating her stone, turned into a dragon for 10,000 years to repair the broken Master Sword that got sent back in time at the beginning of the game. Honestly, that was pretty cool. The transformation scene was great, and it was such a cool concept. I'll talk about my biggest issue with this in the ending section, but it was definitely a nice end to the memories. The Tears of the Dragon memories overall is just exposition, plot dumping, and all these characters who could have been really cool just got reduced to plot devices. Even Zelda in Breath of the Wild was a great character, and the memories in that game really showed that off, but here she's literally just used for plot shit. I still like her, but again, it would have been nice to see her do anything but talk about the plot. The memories are just underwhelming. There's nothing here but plot dumps for a shallow story, and rewatching them for this video, I am just not engaged. Honestly, there's not even that much to talk about because it's so focused on explaining shit, and I already went over how uninteresting most of the shit in this game is. So what we're stuck with is cutscenes that have no value once you know the little bit of important shit in them. It's just nothing here. Okay, the main story's bad. The lost memories are underwhelming at best, but I will give it to this game. The ending is pretty good for what it's worth. So after we beat Phantom Ganon, we are tasked to find the 5th Guardian, Mineru, the 3rd Zonai that we know in the game, by the way. Now I hate the process of finding her. Getting to the Spirit Temple was god awful, but the dungeon's alright. It has a cool boss fight after, and we get one of the best cutscenes in the game with Rauru stealing Ganon. It was pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. After that, we get sent to the depths of Hyrule Castle, and as Ganondorf is revived, the Guardians come to assist. It was a really cool scene despite how shallow all these Guardians are. When Ganondorf is revived, he has so much badassery to him. The voice acting does Ganondorf so much for his presence and intimidation. It was some of the most Ganon shit I've ever seen, man. It was great. When we start the fight, his health bar goes over the limit. I really like this touch. It's one of the few moments where the game does something a little bit out of the ordinary, and it adds so much to the fight. The fight was amazing. Easily the best Ganondorf fight in the 3D game. After we beat him, he eats his sacred stone and he turns into a dragon. So we hop on Zelda and fight Dragon Ganondorf. This shit is so fucking cool, man. Absolutely no complaints. The music is doing what music in a Zelda game does, and seeing this entire land on the dragon as we're fighting was just an ethereal experience. The entire story is terrible, but this ending almost makes up for it. So we beat Ganondorf, and this final moment in the game is where I have two big issues that summarize all the problems I have with the story. So first, and this is the more minor one, Raru's spirit takes Link's arm and gives him his old one back. Okay, I guess, you know, we're probably gonna have that happen anyway, but it would have been cool to see Link have a permanent design change. It's not a huge thing, but it feels like Nintendo resetting Link for the next game. Granted, this isn't just something exclusive to this Nintendo franchise, so it's sort of whatever. The second problem I have is a lot more subtle, but when I really think about it, it puts into perspective how bad the story actually is. So Zelda is also turned back by Raru and Sona, and we have this great moment of Link diving down to catch her as she free falls into the water. We catch her and she says, "Link, I'm home," or something along the lines of that, and the game ends. Nothing seems wrong with it when you look at it, but then you really think about it, and something hit me. Zelda spent 10,100 years of her life sacrificing herself for Hyrule, and we never acknowledged that. In any other game, we would at least have some type of acknowledgement of how bad that actually is. But for some reason, it's just whatever. One line of her being home is enough, and we're just gonna move past it. My issue is that even if we got a sequel, I doubt Nintendo would even realize this, especially with them barely wanting to acknowledge Breath of the Wild in this game. So all the trauma, suffering, or even just her thinking about how fucked her life is, it's just gonna be ignored and she'll be back to normal in the next game. I'm not saying we need to have Zelda doing pills with shots at the bar and having psychotic breakdowns, but it would have been nice to have her be a person affected by everything she's gone through instead of just brushing it off to be an endgame rescue the princess plot device. This was just one more nail in the coffin in this game's story to me. Just the last missed opportunity to drive in how bad Nintendo fumbled the ball. God, this story was dog shit. As I was writing this script, my cousin came over and we rewatched the regular show movie. I know, it's such a random thing to talk about in the Zelda video, but stay with me here. We talked a lot about the movie, and hearing him talk about it made me see how deep regular show was. I told him that I never thought regular show was this deep. I watched it from 2013 in 3rd grade all the way to it ending in 2017. It was a show I kept up with every Monday after school. And while I was a huge fan, at the end of the day, it was just an entertaining show with cool characters and fun stories, and I just didn't see it as anything more. And then my cousin said something that resonated with me. He said that when he watches something, whether it's Bear in the Big Blue House to Breaking Bad, he pays attention because everything has something going on beyond the surface. There's some type of deeper narrative, something the story is trying to teach or show, something, but it's there. And Zelda was my first introduction to this idea all the way back in 2012. I had an Xbox for a year, but all I played was Connection and Forza Motorsports. Before then, I just had a Wii and a DS. I was a gamer, but I never saw games as something that could be more than just fun for everyone. I knew that there was a whole world of games that I didn't know. I saw my friends play stuff like Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption, but I wasn't really interested. All I cared about with gaming was just fun entertainment that was aimed for me. Mario, Sonic, and Sega All-Star Racings, and whatever shovelware title my mom bought. But when I started watching gaming videos on YouTube and got interested in Zelda, it felt so different from what I was used to from Nintendo. It had puzzles and they weren't straightforward. It had an atmosphere in a world, and Zelda also had a story that was almost as important in some games as the gameplay. When I picked up Twilight Princess, I didn't fully realize it then, but that was the start of me seeing games as more than just simple fun for kids. And I think that's the reason why Tears of the Kingdom, both as a full game, but especially the story, pisses me off so much. This game fails at so much because it wants to be accessible and simple for a new audience. It sort of reminds you of the Wii U and its failures now thinking about it. Instead of Zelda being a franchise that introduces the ideas that games can be more than just simple fun for kids, it became a franchise that aimed to be simple fun for kids. And that's never been even close to what Zelda's been in the past, especially with games like Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask. Most of this game's issues are traced back to that simple point, and the result is something that above all else is just disappointing. That's why I think that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has the worst story in the Zelda franchise. However, there is a little bit of hope with the new Hyrule Warriors game. Now, I'm not going to pick it up. It's probably going to cost $70, and I'm not really in the Hyrule Warriors mood right now. But the fact that Nintendo, this greedy, soulless corporation, cared enough about such a minor complaint from the most hardcore Zelda fans about its story to make this entire game's marketing, at least in America, basically be, yo, this game's gonna not only matter to the story, but also sort of fix Tears of the Kingdom, is making me a bit optimistic. Now, is it damage control? Obviously. But them listening to such a minor complaint from people who, let's be real, they weren't the target audience for this game, and on top of that, this game sold phenomenal. I don't know, man. I feel mixed about it, but I'm also excited to see what they do. Again, I'm not gonna buy it, but I will watch the cutscenes, and I'll probably make a sequel to this video then. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'm the Masked Man, and I'll see you guys next time. So peace out and take care.